learning series. In this video, we're going to be going over 3 features in SAFE. We're going to be going over retention, security, and versioning. We're going to be talking about what they are, why you would use it, who uses it, and how to set it up. And so the first thing I want to go over is security. What security is as a cabinet administrator, you can create what we call security classes for folders and documents. If a user has access to a certain security class, then they'll be allowed to access that folder or document. If they don't have rights to that security class, then they will not be able to access that folder or document. So let me give you an example of what I mean here. So if you take a look at my screen here, I'm logged into SAFE. I'm in the Human Resources repository. I'm in the Active Personnel cabinet, and I have a folder for each person or each employee. And if I click on Edit on any of these folders here, I can see down at the very bottom, under all the folder indexes, I can see folder security. And if I do a drop down here, you can see that I've created 4 new security classes. Non-sensitive is our default. So I've created one for New York, Alabama, Virginia, and Georgia. And each folder has been assigned a security class based on where that employee works. So as you can see here, if I come to somebody else and click on Edit, you can see there you go, this person has the Georgia folder security class applied to them. So the person I'm logged in as right now is my user, and I have full rights to the system. So I can see every employee from every store. Now if I were to log in as somebody with rights to just one of those security classes, let me show you what happens. So I'm going to log out here and log back into SAFE. But this time I'm going to log in as a different user called Harold. Now Harold is my New York store manager. So I'm going to log in here. And once I'm logged in, I'm going to go again to the Human Resources repository, to my Active Personnel cabinet. And there you go. So we see a much shorter list now of available folders. Because again, Harold only has rights to the New York security class. So if I go to any of these folders and click on Edit, you'll see that my only option down here is New York, because that's the only folder class that this user has rights to. So again, if I were to log out, and let's go back to the login screen here, and this time I'm going to log in as another store manager. So I'm going to put in my user Richard. And once again, go to my Human Resources repository, my Active Personnel cabinet. There we go. We see a different set of folders, which again, if I click on Edit here, only have the security class that he has rights to. So this is my Alabama store manager. So I'm only going to see folders for employees that live in Alabama. So as you can see, you can give people different rights to different folders based on what you want them to be able to see. I have my user, which has full rights. I can see every folder. But then as I log in as these different managers that only have rights to one specific security class, I'm only going to see those pertaining folders. Alright, so that's a little bit about how we set them up for or how we use them as folders. We'll get into how we set them up in just a minute, but I want to show you security classes now for documents. So that's kind of all that's required, or all that's involved when it comes to folder security. Let me log back in as my user, which again has full rights. Okay. So I'm going to go to my Human Resources repository, my Active Personnel cabinet. Alright, and once again I can see all my folders. I'm going to click this, open on this first folder here to take a look at some of the documents. Alright, so I have 4 documents in here. And if I let's right click on this expense report here and go to Edit Description. You can see the security on this document says Management. So again, a security class has been applied to this document, and only people that have rights to the Management security class will be able to see this document. I can go see that I had another couple other ones in here. If I add a description on this PTO request, you can see this one has just non-sensitive security. But if I do the drop down, I can then apply any document security class that I have rights to. So I can apply a management security class on there, or apply a tax security class on there if I wanted to, and click OK. And there we go. So if I have a management security class on any of these documents and I don't have rights to management, let me show you what that'll look like. So once again, I'm going to log out, open up Safe again, and once again log in as a user that does not have rights to the management class. All right, so when I go here again to my active personnel cabinet, I'm going to go into that same first folder here. And there we go. So you can see, I can see as the manager the PTO request. So I can see that document because again that has the non-sensitive security and this user has rights to that security class. But this user does not have rights to the management class. So you can see every other document is completely locked down. If I click on it, it's not going to give me any information on the title, and it's telling me that I have insufficient document rights. So it's not even going to let me see any part of that document at all because, again, I don't have rights. All right, so with that being said, let's jump into management and take a look at how this is set up. So if you look on the left-hand side, we have a classes option here. If I click on that, it's going to show me a few tabs here. I can see folder, document, and retention. And retention we're going to go over in a minute. I want to stick to classes for now. So as you can see, I'm on the folder tab here, and you can see each one of those classes that I had for my folders. So if I want to make a new class, all I need to do is come here to a class that's not being used. I can see class 6 is not being used. And let's say we get a new store in North Carolina. I can make that as my description, click on save. And there we go. Now I have a new security class available. No one has rights to that security class yet, but it is available. And I can do the same thing here for the document tab. So let's say there is a new document here. It's called personal. Click on save. And there we go. Now I have another document security class available. So that's all it takes to add them into your system so that you can name these and use them however you want. And then if I go here to rights, we can give somebody rights to the security classes. So first thing I want to do is come here and pick my repository, so human resources, active personnel, and I'm going to come to my user here and I'm actually going to delete him out and we're going to re-add their rights. So I'm going to click on add here. I'm going to select my user I want to give rights to. So again, I'm using my user. Click on next. Alright, so step 2 here is it's showing me folder rights. So I'm going to assign folder rights for this person. And in the first column here I can see all of my different folder security classes that I created. And then in the right hand column here I can see what access I have to those individual security classes. So as you can see right now, my user has none. But I want to give myself rights to all of them. So I'm going to highlight all of these classes here and click on lock to give myself lock rights to each one of those folder classes. Give myself folder export and transfer rights, and then I'm done with folders. So as you can see, again, I've given myself full rights to each folder security class. So that way in Safe, I can use those and see every folder with those security classes on it. And then I'm going to click on next to go to step 3 here. Same thing here. I can see each of my document classes. I'm going to highlight all of those, click on lock to give myself full rights to each one of those document classes, and hit finish. So now that I have full rights to all of those classes, if I come back here to Safe, let's once again log out here and I'll log back in as myself. Alright. So once I'm logged in, I'm going to again go to my active personnel cabinet. So I've added that new North Carolina security class and given myself rights to it. So not only can I, again, still see every folder because I have rights to every class, but if I click on edit here, I can now choose North Carolina as a folder security option. So if I were to apply this to that folder, only people with rights to that security class would now be able to see that folder. All right. Now, one other thing I want to go over before we move on from classes is using templates to automatically apply a class to a document. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with using templates at this point. If you're not, you should definitely check out our video on templates. They're very powerful. They allow you to automatically set naming conventions to documents. You can automatically set up things for the document to do once it's created, like automatically go through a workflow and things like that. And what we're also going to do with them right now is if I come here, let's go to our HR application template. I'm going to click on edit there. And on the first step here, you can see we have a security option. And what that's going to allow us to do is if I click on the little ellipse there, I can see each one of my document classes. And if I assign, I'm going to choose management and click OK. So now anytime any person uses this application template, it will automatically apply the security class to the document. So that way you don't have to worry about making sure the security class is there. It's going to be there automatically, so that way once the document's filed away, only the appropriate people will see this document. So again, it just makes it even easier to apply security class and keep that security in your system. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to retention. Now when it comes to retention, we have 4 different types, and I want to bring up this little chart I have here that just gives you a brief summary of what each type is. So we have the first one here. I'm just going to go through them one by one and show you what each one does as I go through. First one we have here is modifiable. That is a retention that is editable and can be changed by a user with edit rights. So I'm going to show you what that means. And I guess I should back up just a second here. Retention is something you can apply to a document that makes it so no one can edit or delete that document for a certain period of time. So if for compliance reasons, a lot of financial advisors use this because they have to keep documents for a certain amount of years, or you might have to keep your employee records for a certain amount of time and you don't want anybody messing with them, things like that. You can use to apply to the documents and make sure they stay in your system for that period of time. So again, our first option here we have is modifiable, and this is editable and can be changed by a user with edit rights. Now what I mean by that is when the retention is applied, the document's not editable, but the retention is. So we're going to come in here in this folder, and we're going to look at this PTO request here, and I'm going to right click and go to edit description. So as you can see here, on the bottom right we have a retention drop down, and I have a bunch of different retentions here. And we're going to go on how to building them in just a minute, but I want to show you how they work first. So first one I have here is one for 7 years, and it's modifiable. So by clicking OK here, it's going to say, are you sure you want to set a modifiable retention to this document? Click on yes. Then it's asking to start where I want to start the retention date from. So again, this retention is going to last for 7 years, and it's saying, do you want this retention to start from today's date, so start right now, or do you want it to start from the last date the document was modified? So that could be when the document was brought in or the last time somebody made an edit on it. So I can choose yes or no depending on when I want that retention to start. We're just going to say from today's date. So I'm going to click on yes. So now, if I right click on this document and go to edit description again, you can see this document has been assigned a modifiable retention class. So the document is not editable, or I cannot delete it out of the system. But since I used a modifiable retention, I can still, as a user, come down here at any time if I have edit rights to the document and change that retention again. So then I could choose to take it off if I needed to, or change it to another retention, or so on. So again, bring it back up. That's what this means by editable. That means the user can take, if they have edit rights to the document, can take that to retention on or off. Then we have fixed. So fixed is going to be kind of a level up. This one is non-editable. It can be changed to modifiable in management. So what that means is here in Safe, if I set, we're going to, again, still use this PTO request. I'm going to edit the description, do the drop down here. I can come down here to this 5-year fixed retention. As a user, I can set that on the document. So again, 5 years, this one's fixed. I click OK. Again, it's asking me if am I sure I want to do this? Yes. Set my retention date. And there we go. So the difference here, if I right click and go to edit description, I can't change that now. So you can see this is a fixed retention class. I cannot, as a user, come in here and change that retention. But what I can do from fixed is move it down to modifiable. So here in management, again under classes, we have our retention tab. And now here I can see all of my different retentions. And at any point I can go to a fixed retention that I have set up, click on it, and it's going to allow me to edit over here to the right, and you can see I can change it to any other retention type as it's when it is set to fixed. So from here I could change it to modifiable, click on save. So now it's modifiable, and now if I come back in here to save, I can right click, edit description, and now you can see that retention can be taken off. So fixed is a good way to apply a retention to a document where a user cannot change it, but if you needed to take that retention off for some reason, as a manager, you could do that. So again, you have to be in management to change fixed to modifiable, but it can move that way. So you can have it set to fixed and then change it to modifiable to take it off if you need to. All right, so now we're going to come to our third retention, which is indefinite. This one is editable a little differently, and I'll show you what I mean by that. There's no expiration date. So, and by indefinite is what it means. It means that once you apply this retention, it is on forever. There's no expiration date, no time that it will be taken off. And it can be edited, but it can only be changed to permanent. So let's come here into safe and take a look at what that means. So if I come here to my drop down for retention, I have an indefinite retention here. It just says 1 year, that's just the name of the retention, but this one is indefinite. So if I click OK, it's gonna again ask me to make sure. Click on yes, and there we go. So I'm gonna click OK there. And now if I go to edit description again, you can see that this has been set to 1 year, indefinite, and it can only be changed to a permanent retention class. So if I do the drop down here, now you can see my list has gotten narrowed down. I can only see my indefinite retention and a permanent retention. So what that means is, again, indefinite is going to be set on as a retention forever, but if I needed to take that retention off, if I needed to do something with it, I could change it to a permanent. And now a permanent retention is our fourth kind. It's non-editable, and once a document has a permanent retention set, it cannot be changed and it will not be taken off by anyone at all in the system until the expiration date. So if I come in here to save, and you can see I have a 10 years permanent and a 1 day permanent. And I have this 1 day permanent so that I can come in here, if I have a document on indefinite retention, I can change it to a 1 day permanent retention, click OK, ask me if I'm sure, and if I want to start from today's date or the modified date. All right. So now, if I had a description, I can't change it anymore because again, I've changed it from indefinite to permanent, and permanent cannot be changed, but this one's only set to a day, so by tomorrow, this document's retention will be taken off. All right, so sort of, it's a lot. We have some documentation that goes into great detail on these and gives you a bit, a good idea on how to use them. But again, to kind of go recap, we have modifiable, which can be taken on and off of a document by a user if they have edit rights to the document. You have fixed, which once applied to a document can only be changed to modifiable to be taken off, but that can only be done by a manager, somebody that can get into management. You have indefinite, which is editable. It can be changed to permanent, but once it's set to a document, there's no expiration date and it's just on there forever. But once you use a permanent retention set, a permanent, again, cannot be changed by anybody, and it will only be taken off once the expiration date is up. All right. So with that being said, let's jump back here into Safe. And the last thing I want to go over is versioning. Now versioning, when that's turned on, it'll save a new file each time a document is edited and saved. This can make it so that you have a copy of every document that gets edited. So what I mean by that is, I'm going to come here to this expense report. And if I right click on this expense report and go to versions, I can see every time this document's been edited. So I can see that this person on this date and time edited the document, and I can see the note that they put on each time they made an edit. So I can see on this one they did Monday's expenses, this edit they did Tuesday's expenses, and I can see each one of these documents. So if I click on this first one here, let's do a preview, I can see a preview of the version that was just done with Monday's expenses. And I can close that. I could even highlight multiple copies, click on this compare button here, and it's going to give me a side-by-side preview of each document. So you can see, I can see my Monday changes, and I can see my Tuesday changes side by side if I need to. All right. And again, I have my Wednesday and Thursday here, and you can see when those were created. If I need to, I can delete a version. So let's say I no longer need the Monday expenses. I can hit delete here. It's going to say, are you sure you want to recycle this document? Click on yes, and now that's gone to my deleted versions tab. So once it's here, I have a couple options. I can permanently delete it to make sure that's completely gone. Or if I realize I deleted it or somebody deleted it by accident, I can simply restore it. All right. So then the way versioning works is I'm going to open up this expense report here. I'm going to edit it. Now once it's open, let me go ahead and enter Friday's expenses here. Alright, so I've entered some information there for Friday's expenses. Once I'm done, I can close out, save my changes. And once I'm saving it, it's going to pop up with this comment, or this window here asking me to enter a comment. So now this is where I'm going to put my notes as to what change I made. So I'll say Friday expenses, click OK, and there we go. I see my changes here, and if I right click on this document and go to versions, I can now see my newest version that says Friday expenses. All right. So it's as simple as that. That's all there really is to it as far as the user experience. To set it up, I'm going to come here to management, and there's 3 different places that I can set this up. Here under system settings and under options, you have an option for global versioning. This will turn on versioning for every single document in your entire system. Now I'd be hesitant, I would be careful using this because again, every time you edit the document, it's saving a new copy. So for instance, this expense report, I have 5 versions. That means I have 5 copies of the document. So you can see that over time, if you have versioning turned on for every document, that can start to take up a lot of space on your hard drive. So that's just something to think about when you are using versioning here. So you have, and again, you have global versioning, which is for the entire system. If I go here to cabinets, and we'll edit this first cabinet, I have a document versioning checkbox on step 1. So that means I can turn on versioning for an entire cabinet, but that cabinet only. So if I turn it on here for this cabinet, none of the other cabinets are going to have versioning turned on, but every document in this cabinet will. All right, and then the last place, if we come here to templates, and I'll go back to an HR template here, edit this, and right under where we can automatically apply a security or retention to a template, we can also have versioning turned on for a specific template. So not only can you do it globally and on a specific cabinet, but if you only want certain documents in your cabinet to have versioning turned on, you can do that here with the template. So I'd say enable versioning, click on finish, and now anytime that template is used, that document will automatically have versioning turned on. All right. So to kind of recap here, we've gone over retention, security, and versioning, why you would use it, what it is, who uses it, and how to set it up. If you have any questions or like any more information, you can contact your cabinet reseller or send us an email at info@cabinetpaperless.com or give us a call at 800-621-6501. Appreciate you watching our videos. Feel free to check out any of the other videos on our YouTube channel.